So yeah, I think we need to. It's a timely presentation or a webinar, if we would say, because most of us will be collecting our bonuses in time to come, and the knee-jerk reaction to, shall I move, shall I not move, what shall I do, right? So this is it's all about finding out your why, right? It's not a session on CVs, it's not a write-up, it's not everything, it's today it's about, even before I make the move, I need to find out why I need to make the move. All right, so yeah, let's start, and I think as more people join in, we cannot wait already, so we want to start with this. Okay, so let's get it clear first. What is this session all about, right? This is not a CV writing workshop. It's not an interview coaching session, not a job search, or you need to leave tomorrow, right? It's if you came here for CV tips, we have another one, right? But today it's not about how to move, it's whether you should move in the first place. So yeah, so this is the start. This is the framework that we're going to take on today, right? And this idea came to me. It's a lot of times we move. Are we actually moving from the frying pan to the fire, right? And so to avoid that from happening to most of us, let's let this webinar be a clear idea of what we want to achieve at the end of the webinar, right? Is whether do I even need to put my papers down, right? So let's see as we go. I'm sure we have more, all right? So I've spoken to some people recently, and over my course of 20 years, I've spoken to a lot of people, and they leave from one company to another, hoping that the problems will vanish, right? But you have not identified what your problems are, right? They are never going to vanish. They're just going to appear again in another company. So hence, most people do not make bad career moves. They make unclear ones. They make unclear ones. So let's see. I'm at work. Something is not right, but I don't know what's right. You've got to find out what's right, you know. And when you are in this unclear phase, you get a call. I've got a better opportunity. Yes, they've got an opportunity, but whether it's better or not, it clearly depends on your motivation to move, right? And this is something that many of us don't realize because we don't look for a job all the time. We look for it when it becomes a knee-jerk reaction, right? So we have a CV ready, we know the job description, we think we're prepared, but unless you know what's driving you out, there is no way you can be prepared, and yeah, assumption, a new employer will remove the discomfort, but what discomfort do you have? And it happens, and this recently happened to someone I knew, right, who clearly didn't know why he wanted to move, made the choice. I told him, you got to be clear, I'm getting more money. And then he went over the other side, and now he's back again looking for a job because money was not the main reason, right? So identifying the reasons to move is the most important, is actually the start of your job journey, right? Yeah, I spoke about this earlier, the frying pan to the fire, right? How many times are we moving, not realizing that, oh, Ryan, I I want more money. Who doesn't? Ryan, I think I've got a bad boss, but that is subjective. What's the context, right? And the emotional drain on some people is that the pain today pushes them into a decision they have not thought through properly, and you've got to understand this. I had a bad week. I had a bad day. I feel that, oh, yesterday I did something right, I was not acknowledged, right? But companies don't acknowledge every day. You've got to see, is this a one-time problem or is it a recurring problem? And yeah, so as the slide says, you can carry on these same untested assumptions into the next role, but you'll still be there. All right. The new company has different politics, but not necessarily better ones. This is something we need to really understand, and this, as we go along, we realize that what are the reasons that pushes people out? What are the reasons that you can undertake to see whether your next move will be better, right? And keep going back. It's a lot about inward reflection, and it's a lot about understanding yourself, understanding that the best and most expensive shirt might not be the right shirt for you. You need to know what fits, right? And oh, I've heard about this company. They've got fantastic programs. They're good, right? I'm going to make the move. But what are you leaving? And why are you leaving? Right? Is it going to happen there again? Are you a big company player? Are you someone who is more suited to a smaller environment? And without that clarity, the cycle repeats under different brand names, right? And I'm sure some of you will agree. Maybe, the regret, maybe I should not have left, right? I'm not saying stay where you are all the time, tolerate, but if you don't do the inward reflection about asking yourself why, the next place might give you the same problems, if not worse, right? And yeah, so we spoke about reflection a while ago, right? And you've got to diagnose yourself. What is it? What is the problem? Yeah, you've got to, before you do your CV, which is probably in the next webinar we're going to do. You've got to self reflect. How many times, and some of you are interviewers here, how many times have you spoken to someone from the first interview? Oh, I don't like where I am, and then when the offer is made, I want a 20% increment. You see, and that's where clarity is lost. If the next company is giving you an escape route from where you are, you feel that it's a quicksand situation, right? But then you also expect a 20% increment for living a bad environment, right? So that is the problem. While why deals, why contract negotiations stall, why I've not been given an offer, why I was told I was going to get an offer, but why have I not got it? Because throughout the journey, you have kind of misplaced the reason why you want to move to something else, right? So always have that, uh, you know, at the back of your mind. That is the main reason why you're leaving. And today, probably later, if I asked all of you right now, why would you want to move? And could you answer me in one sentence? I think that is the reason why you need to look at the next job. See, it's like correctly in my slides right here, right? What are you moving towards? And this is, do not worry. I think we'll probably share the slides later, but this is it, clear growth and scope, better role fit, a known upgrade, a leadership or opportunity, a conscious next chapter. Today, today we all get paid. We all work. Some of us, unfortunately, are in between jobs. We all have an environment to work, but ask yourself, are you running away or are you moving towards? They're two different things, right? Running away causes panic. Moving towards is a well thought about decision with clarity, right? Whether you're a CEO, whether you are mid-career transitioning, you always need to move towards something, right? Something you've not had, a challenge that you're lacking. I've helped to build this company. Right now, I think I'm at my ceiling. So you know already that you need to go to another company where you need a different challenge. Yes, challenges come with the right salary, but it's not always about money, right? Another story I had recently, someone called me Monday at 3 o'clock saying that my Monday morning meeting wasn't good. I spent the whole weekend trying to do something, and when I came, I was shut down. And I said, how many times has it happened in that company that you've been? Or once, but I just feel agitated. I feel embarrassed. I said, but have you thought about it? Have you spoken to your manager? No, I've not. Then that's an ego problem, right? So are you running away from one incident or a bad quarter? You know, Temporary frustration cannot be mistaken for permanent truth, right? Many a times we've had bad days, bad hours, bad quarter, but that that does not signal to a move outside, because it's gonna repeat. This silent repetition is going to happen elsewhere, because everybody wants you to have a good quarter, right? And this is something that I thought about when I was penning it down, right? Are you going to be given an offer that feels like an escape rather than a good fit, right? Is that an escape route, or you're going to be there for the next 3 to 5 years? So what escape are we talking about, right? So it's important that we throughout this webinar, I want the people that are attending to understand that moving is all right, tolerating is not. Looking for better opportunities is always good. We all have a shelf life, right? And so what we try to do is we need to be clear on the reason to move. And I speak to many people every day, right? And somehow starting a job search, and 1.5 months later, when an offer is out, the motivation to move somehow has diluted, you know, and then you get knee-jerk reaction, or shall I stay again, right? So it does not, it's not about wasting people's time, but it also shows the people around you that you're indecisive, that you're not someone who thinks, right? And yeah, so keep this at the back of your mind the next time you're looking for a job. Why is more or less that, yeah. And this again, right? I would like to do this fast enough, right? And to many leaders who are attending today and many job seekers, there are mainly three main reasons why people leave. Everything else is a smokescreen. The bus is far away. The bus stop is far away. My wife is not happy. My children want more of me. Right. It boils down to three main reasons: compensation and benefits. You know, and just last week, there was a candidate who was offered X amount of dollars, and said, Ryan, I have to think about it. I need to speak to my wife, and I need to look at other things, and said, okay, what if they up the offer by $1,000? I will take it right now. So what happened to the talk to the wife, to the children, to your lifestyle? So if compensation benefits is right, people stay. If they keep saying that someone else can pay me higher, that is one of the reasons why people leave, right? We're not here to match people's salary, but we're here to understand, why do you get that feeling, right? Why do you think you're being paid unfairly? Learning and growth. This happens in a lot of maritime companies, not only maritime, but other companies as well. They find that for me to grow, the person above me has to go, right? And for me to grow, I need to do something different, but I feel that I can't grow anymore. But then again, inward conversations to find out what is the next plan, and if it's clear, then you know what to do. Learning, and I'm amazed sometimes when people have stopped learning. They're just doing and learning on the job every day for the next 5 years. And finally, if when they speak to people outside at events, they realize that, oh, I've only been doing what I've been doing every day. I'm not learning anything. Everything is too good. I need to replace the C, comfort, with the word C, challenge. Right. So yeah, so that is something. And work culture and management. If the first two, people, I've seen people still take, and say, okay, I can tolerate. It's fine. I'm not being paid the best, but I think it's still fine. But the third one is something people choose to tolerate. And if you ask me, if you think you don't fit, if a shoe does not fit, you don't try, because you're not hurting the shoe, you're hurting your leg, right? So if you do not fit into the culture and you've tried multiple times, then it's not the right culture for you. Complaining is not going to help, right? But if you know that the culture is not the right culture for you, then the next time you're going for a job interview, or you're going to apply for a job, find out the work culture. Don't ask the job description, don't ask the salary, find out the work culture, find out why people are leaving that company. And if that aligns with why you're going to leave, then we spoke about it earlier, from the frying pan to the fire, right? Management. You see, management is today. If you write something about a bad leader or a bad management, you get 500 likes. If you write something about I like where I work, you probably get 10 likes. So uh, um, uh, saying management is bad and all that, it's kind of been something like people want to have come on the bandwagon to say, yes, let's write something about bad management. But I don't think, it's whether you can align. There's no burnout, there's only misalignment, right? And if you're working for a company where you can't give what they want and they can't give you what you want, and then it's loosely termed as bad management. But I think mainly is misalignment. Yes, we've all had bad managers who happen to be good husbands, good fathers. So it's not something that we need to complain about. But if you know you're not being appreciated, then find out in your next interview what's your management style. How do you look after your people? Don't ask that, because then they can give you a chat GPT answer, but have scenario based questions. If I'm late, if I've got to do something and I really tried and I cannot, how will you react to that? 4 or 5 questions, eventually you'll get the truth out of the person, right? So let's move on from this slide. The three main reasons why people move: compensation and benefits. I can't learn anymore, I need to go somewhere else to learn. I'm willing to take a pay cut to learn. I'm willing to take a pay cut to grow. So you see, all three cannot happen at the same time, right? I want more money. Sorry, I want more money. So you need to understand, one of it has to go for another to happen, right? Let's move on to the next one. That's as we speak about compensation and benefits, right? So these are, I don't want to dwell too much into it, but they're all here, right? Yeah. Do you want higher pay, or do you want evidence to find out what's your value? Are you being valued? You know, find out objective market misalignment and subjective disappointment, right? What's the difference, right? Money matters, but money can also become the language we use for something else, right? So look at this. What is objective market misalignment, right? And what is subjective disappointment? That's something you've got to keep asking yourself, right? And yeah, so the next one is to let yourself know, where do you get the idea that I'm being underpaid? Was it through a salary benchmarking that you've read? Was it from a company that's within your scope? Am I comparing role for role, apple for apple, or title for title? Yeah, because some companies have directors that are probably managers, and some companies have managers that are probably paid like directors, right? So finally ask yourself, is it a compensation issue or a validation issue? We will share this right after, like I said. And if you have the time, write this down. Continue to understand what is objective market misalignment and subjective disappointment, because that would really tell you if you are moving for money, and are you going to go to the other place and get a bit more money and somehow do more work, and you don't have the time for it. Okay, this like I said, and yeah, so I spoke to someone recently. Let me give you use case scenarios. He works for a company of 7 people. He has upgraded himself, he's upskilled himself. He or she finds that, oh, fantastic, I think I've done all I can here, I need to move, right? And that's a valid reason, right? Yeah, I think I want to, but you need to realize that you can be a senior manager here of a company of 7 people, and if you want to move to a company of 70 people, you must first understand you've not had that experience managing 70 people. So you might have to want to go for something lesser, right? And this can turn people off sometimes. Oh, I've been a director somewhere else, I want to come and be a director here, right? So like we spoke about earlier, is it an apple to apple comparison? You got to ask yourself, and yeah, as I also said earlier, replace the word see comfort to see challenge. If you find you're getting too comfortable, right, and then that why, because you want to move somewhere else for more money for the same comfort, that's not going to happen, right? And yeah, Ryan, I'm being paid a bit more now, 20%, but I find that I've got to open new markets. I've got to deal with people from different countries. I'm managing people remotely, and it comes with that, money comes with the challenge, right? And this is, the third line when I was writing, I felt it, growth is never only a promotion. It can be exposure, it can be stretching of your abilities, and capabilities, right? So you might have to handle more complex problems. So if you want learning and growth opportunities, you've got to be ready for it. They're not going to say, let me pay you more and come and learn. They said, let me pay you more because of what you have already done. Now you've got to transition into my company. And there's no time for learning, man. You've got to come and do what you need to do, right? So, and some people are stuck. Oh, a new product, but I've been a manager before. That's before, right? So keep asking questions like that, and keep challenging yourself. They might not be happy questions, but there's really questions that can shape whether you need to even move in the first place, right? And yeah, this is something that I keep telling everyone. Before you want to move out, speak internally, you know, find out whether within the means and resources you have, whether you have exhausted all internal conversations and options. Because if you don't do it, then it's going to happen a month and a half later when a job offer is around. Why didn't you even speak to me? Why didn't you reach out? Or we found you had so much potential. You can work for us in another department, right? And this might over around counter offer, but it can also be, genuine interest from the company that they want to hold on to you. So think about this, and these are something that I also like you to have a look at before I say there's no food. If I even ask for more food, is there even more available food for me, right? So even before you have say that there's no scope in the company, if you ask for it, have you willingly gone out of your way to say, can I learn more? Can I play a bigger part? Yeah. So I can't do this because someone is there, but am I creating new value? Right. This, like I said, there's a meme out on social media that the amount of money and time you spend at the therapist will tell you whether you're working in the right place, right? So yeah, there is never a place that's perfect, right? A good manager today can become difficult tomorrow because you don't know the pressures he's facing. A good colleague, a good colleague, and I don't want to use the word friend, can become a bad colleague if the two of you are lining up for a promotion, and yeah. So and sometimes you feel drained, right? That am I doing enough? Am I being appreciated? And I think yes, emotional attachments, we have to stop taking things personal, right? And every time someone says something, take it as a positive criticism, right? But if it's not phrased well, and if it keeps repeating, then you're not a tree. You got to wake up, pull no roots, just wake up and move. Look for repetition. Is it a one-off incident, right? Never, biasness. Yeah, you see, some managers are where they are because they're good at what they do, but they're probably not good at management. And some managers are really good at managing, but they're not good at what they do, right? So yeah, companies are also trying the best to find a balance to have to not promote the top performer into a good manager, right? And look for a good manager within the performers, right? So it's also, I think, a conundrum many companies face today, right? Yeah, yeah, yes. And we spoke about this earlier. Is it misalignment? The guy is good, but he's got communication issues. Have you sat down outside office contacts? Have you sat down clearly saying, hey, uh, this is this is who I am. I feel that you're targeting me. Is it something wrong? Right? You need to yeah, this needs balance. Validate genuine unhealthy cultures. You got to validate it, you know, and it's not to the people here today, it's not do I feel bad. It's actually what is exactly happening and how consistently is it happening. Am I being put down every day? Am I being put down to the point where I'm suffocating? I'm finding a reason not to go to work because it's consistent. The minute I say something, do I get shut down, right? One thing that I was told very early on, never gaslight, feel toxicity, but also do not label every discomfort as toxicity. It's a very commonly used word, at the same time very loosely used word. We every single discomfort we feel at work, it has become a toxic culture, right? But at the same time, don't gaslight, feel toxicity. If you feel that, no, I can't take it anymore because I'm not given equal treatment, and then, like I said, what we need to do. Yes, I think this is something we have seen and read earlier. Then we move on to the next one. Right. This is something we spoke about earlier. Before you move, have you exhausted your options? And you need to. Most people say I've tried everything. Usually they mean they've felt everything. They've not tried everything, but they've felt everything, and that's not the same thing. It's a, it's. You need to position yourself as more thoughtful, thought leaders, right? I've tried everything, or are you feeling everything? Trying everything is different. You know, you need to raise the issue professionally. Why do I say this? Because when you are out looking for a job, what happens? You give the the other person, whether you're working with the recruiter or going on your own, that you're looking for a career. You're looking for a job. And more importantly, you're looking for a job with me, which means you're excited to work with me, not because you want to leave where you are and I'm the stepping stone, you know. And so you've got to ensure that you're doing it professionally, and very importantly, we see this missing. We don't like feedback when it's given. We feel that, oh, you're condescending, you're not telling me the right things. But are we even asking for feedback? Because like most candidates, they said, I need feedback to better perform in an interview. Feedback at work is equally important, right? And ask feedback. Have I done it the right way? Can I do it better? Right? Emotions, ego, should never stand in the way. Yes, we spoke about this. Ask whether can I move to another department. I'm happy where I am, but I think I want to learn. I feel that every day it's a chore coming to work. I'm not challenging myself anymore. This is it's two ways, right? We want flexibility. We want to be able to come to work even later. It doesn't matter as long as I get my job done. But every manager and every company has got their constraints. They might have cash flow issues. The company has not been hitting the targets. They tend to say something that's unpleasant. This again, a very close to misalignment, separated short-term fatigue from structural misfit. Sometimes it's just a patch. It's not the entire future. It's just a patch. The short term that I'm going through something, right? I feel that I need to change the short term thing. Maybe I can struggle. Maybe I could challenge myself, right? So yeah. And again, to many of us, I just had this internal meeting the other day. What success to you? Why are you at work? Why direct search? Why this company? Why not somewhere else? Why recruitment? Why not something else? When you keep asking yourself why, and you keep defining success in a way that it's achievable, I think very likely you might not want to look up, right? Because it's going to happen where you go as well. But this is something that I would like you all to. Yes, we spoke about it. Temporary issues, emotional. We may really not have had the right conversations yet. And believe me, right, if the radio is not broken, nobody will want to fix it. If you're there every day at work, quietly doing your job, some managers just don't want to interrupt the flow. So you sometimes you need to voice out and have the right conversations. Oh yeah, we like you, but I think you can you can do well somewhere else within the company. Oh, thank you for bringing this up. if I brought it up, I think you might think I want you to leave. So thank you for bringing. So there might be room to redesign relationships. So yeah, misalignment, fatigue, anger. We need to stop reacting to it. Yes, we're all humans, right? But as we mature, as we age, we can't stop it, but slowly try to. Sometimes it's best not saying anything at all. Best not reacting to it. Yes, these are reasons. These are reasons you should really look out, but not for more money at a company with a similar size. Then frying pan to the fire again, right? You're getting more money to do the same thing, and most likely you're not growing. Yeah, non-negotiable. I think this is as clear as it there in the slide. This is a non-negotiable thing. Values cannot be misaligned, and I cannot work. I don't want to share pipelines. I don't want to share marketing plans because it might be taken and used somewhere else, right? And this you just have to, yeah, really look for the next one, because you cannot continue to stay in a company where either you don't trust or you're not trustworthy. Yeah, the next step has to be intentional. The next step has to shape at least 3 to 5 years at your next workplace. So that is what the next step means. So the step you take now must be where you want to be 5 years from now. It's not going to miraculously happen on the fourth year, right? Some people tell you, take it, staying is strength, but sometimes leaving is wisdom, right? Staying is strength, but leaving is wisdom, right? The point is to know which one you are doing and why. Are you staying because it's strength, but you need to leave because you're getting wiser, right? So you need to, this webinar is all about internal conversations. Am I staying because I want to show strength? Maybe I need to leave because that's wisdom. Yeah. This is something that I want you all to, again, we've come towards the end of our slide, right? So this will be shared, but it can be used as a practical dose for you, right? And what's my real motivation? What exactly is bothering you? Which of the three drivers is this really about? And what evidence do I have? Not a drink session, a beer session where, yeah, I think I'm in a bad place, or wow, I spoke to a friend, I think he's in a better place. Wow, I think there's so many perspectives, right? But at the same time, it is subjective. To I was reading this the other day. There was a new leader in town. He took over the company. He went in. He liked what he saw. He saw someone, a lady, working really hard in the company, really really hard. He went to see her pay scale. I went to see her title. Wow, she's only still an executive, not paying well enough. As a new leader, I'm going to show them, my new colleagues, that if you're working hard and if you are giving what the company wants, we will reward you. That is my new first task as a new manager. And the following Friday, gave her an increment, gave her more challenges, and the next Monday she resigned. Because her driver was just work, go back to the family. No extra money. I am happy what I'm doing every day. I don't want extra challenges. So sometimes we tend to assume, right? So assumptions that someone has more because I want more, someone wants this. So we need to really understand which of the three drivers this is really about, and do I have evidence that this has been a long-term happening occurrence in my company? Is it going to be recurring as well? Because when you know your real motivation, right, what happens? You have the criteria for your next role, right? And the next time you speak to someone, whether it's a recruiter or a company, you are clear on what you want. because we cannot have everything, salary, benefits, growth, learning, and a good management. Some people are fine with the first two. Some people are fine with the last two. Some people are fine with the middle one. So keep asking yourself, if I want to move, write it down, because when you write it down, you have the problem is solved. So write it down and find out, okay, have a checkbox, because be clear when you embark on your next journey. The guy who wants to sell a house is looking for a buyer, nothing else. The person who is hiring is looking for someone to come and solve his problems at work, nothing else. No drama, no noise. So if you say, okay, I've got an offer now, but I want this, but this wasn't what you told me back then. Oh no, but now I've changed. I want more money. Oh, I want this. My company has made a counter offer. Right? You're just delaying the pay. Right? So you when you have your real motivation to move, your next role criteria becomes clear. And that's this webinar is all about. It's about clarity. Then yes, this tells you what your motivation was to move, what my next role is all about, and what is the biggest red flag that I'm going to hear in the next interview. Oh, we are like this. We are family. No, no, no. Because I won't pay my brother to help me do my work. Right? We are not family. We work, we criticize, but we are open. We're not personal. Right? You can have your time off. You can do this as long the work is done. Or these guys are task oriented. Right? What patterns must not be repeated? Patterns are important, because if you have gone through a certain pattern, like someone was telling me this, he said, I shouldn't have stayed so long. I went through a terrible time and this is what happened. I said, actually, you have learned, because you can see through this the next interview you go. If you have never had this experience, you might not be able to see that, right? So what patterns must not be repeated? And what questions must I ask? If anyone who has gone through an interview prep with me, I always say ask questions. And every question you ask has to help you make a decision to join the next company, right? Not after the interview, come out and ask the recruiter, can you ask me what their culture is like? How many people in the team? But the recruiter still has to go back to the company, right? So ask the right and relevant questions. That is the key to your next role, to whether you're going to join them or not, right? If you're not asking the right questions, don't leave things to assumptions, right? And yeah, when as we said, we're coming close to 5 o'clock. We started a bit late because we wanted more people to come in and find, right? But we plan to do this and we plan to get into action more, right? We will do CV write-ups, how to do your CV write-ups, proper interview questions. I mean, we go deep into that, right? And many people today, if you go to someone to buy a house and say, I want to buy a house, to the seller, you're not a ready buyer. But if you're asking, how are your neighbors like? What are the nearest eateries? I walked past, I saw some. What's the best food here? How far are the schools? Where are your children studying? Right? Or how do you commute every day? To the seller, you are a ready buyer. Right. So going for an interview and saying, yeah, fine, I don't have any questions. Yeah, thank you. It's telling your future prospective company that, are you even interested? Or are you here just for the money? Right. So as we go along, and we probably do it quite frequently from now onwards, right? And we want to talk about the start till the end journey, right? From the job seeker, from the minute he wants to move. Why today is about why. Future will be about what do I have to do? How about CVs? One size fit all doesn't work, right? What do I need to share, right? I just saw a CV of someone who had 13 pages, and my first reaction was, who is going to read 13 pages? And you're there to solve a problem. So why don't you highlight the problems that you have solved before in a very similar role, right? So we'll go very deep into that as we go, and it's looking for a job. Again, it's not luck, it's not mystery, it's strategy, and there's a process to it. I'm not saying following the strategy or process will get you the job right away, but you can mitigate the risk of that not happening very often, right? I've applied for a job, but my CV has nailed it. I'm there. I need to ask the right questions. Am I going from the frying pan to the fire? Okay, I've got a company that's better. I'm going to look at the offer. All right, if this is what you want me to do, and this is what I want. But then if I'm escaping the company for a driver, then okay, I'll just take this. I'm happy. My mental peace is more important to me. Let's go. Right. So let's let what's pushing you out determine what you're going to take, and have questions. Write down your non-negotiables. Right. Things are not going to change very often. If you see and hear from the market that this company is always losing people, patterns are not going to change overnight. Right. And then but they're still hiring. Right. So find out my real motivation, my next role criteria, and my non-negotiables. Right. And with this, I think we've come to the end of a webinar for this, right? I think it's a good start for anyone looking a job, right? And come April, we always have many people looking for the jobs. So don't move for the sake of moving. Don't move because of emotions, right? Move because you have a valid reason. Shake hands. Don't burn bridges, right? Just because you're leaving someone doesn't mean you have to be you have to say, wow, thank the good Lord, I hated working for you. And as you leave, don't speak bad about the company, all right? And follow the golden rule. If you have nothing good to say, we just don't say it, right? So yeah, I think with this, I've come to the end of the webinar. Maybe we can have some questions. You have any questions? We don't have any questions. I think we can. Anyone here? Any questions for? I'll probably give 5 minutes for questions, and then we can. Yes, I think we have a question. And as mentioned, right, we will set the tone for more webinars along the way. You know, I think I think while this might be a dry session, we will have more based on proper interview questions, proper interview tips. What do I need to do? How am I going to position myself in the market? There are 5 people going for an interview, so why am I going to be different? What are they looking for? Right. So yeah, I wish everyone all the best for your job search. And if there are no further questions, thank you. Thank you, Parvin. Yes, yes, Majid. Yes. It's a very interesting question. Moving in the same industry but with from a different vertical, right? Some companies, I think, end of the day, right? The problem is, I wouldn't use the word problem, but many companies want to hire because they have, especially if you're talking about vessel operations or superintendent or commercial operations, it's usually because someone has left, right? And for the short term, they need to plug the hole for the short term. While I stress to look out for vertical skills, it doesn't matter whether you're from container or from tanker. You might take, he's already from the maritime, right? It might take 1 or 2 months more to learn, but some companies are not willing to give the opportunity, right? But I think you keep trying, right? There will be opportunities, but usually it's because a short-term gap. It might be more difficult for you. Singapore, yes. I don't think we have anyone from the regulatory body here today, so I can safely say that the strong, stringent EP requirements have made it so difficult, for people to move to Singapore these days, right? And unless unless there's a specific skill set like chief engineer, master mariner, COC class one, a naval architect, where we still have plenty of them in Singapore. But unless it's a requirement that is specific, that the company that's hiring can prove that they can't find someone like that here, then yeah. So it's a bit because of EP requirements. We're not a maritime hub, but we are a maritime nation, right? We have many maritime companies here, but we're still struggling. I think we're still coping with getting more people in Singapore. So because of EP and because of short-term gap, excuse me, short-term gap, that's why they don't want to hire someone from another sector. I mean, within maritime, but from another vertical, tanker, container, LNG, bulk. Yeah, yeah. I hope I've answered your question. We can have a few more questions before we end off, right? And I think to more people getting how to apply for a job. Why do I apply and not get a reply from the company? Is it because I've applied for the wrong job? I know of companies who don't look at CVs that are 8 pages. He might be the right guy, but because they're 8 pages, they might not want to look at it. So how do I keep it precise? How do I keep it concise? How do I keep it in a way that attracts attention, right? It's like that, no? A CV is supposed to get an attention, right? Only then you get an interview. So if we are not making the CV look interesting, we are not getting the right response. So we can leave that for another day and another webinar. But I thank all of you. We started a bit late again. Apologies because we wanted more people to come in. And yeah, thank you everyone.